This is Deborah Taveras with StopTheCrime.net, continuing with the presentation. We're now into the genocide policies. These are globally adopted policies to massively reduce the world's population. So again, going back to the NASA war document, we were told that humans are too large, too heavy, humans are too tender, humans are too slow, both physically and mentally, and we require huge costs, and we have rapidly decreasing to negative value added. We have rapid decreasing to negative value added. Again, robots in the large save lives, enhance effectiveness, and lower threat to the environment. We all are familiar with the Georgia Guidestones. Many of you have heard about that through the years, to maintain humanity under 500 million. Then there's this document that is on StopTheCrime.net. It's the United Nations Rio Sustainable Development Principles. All life, human and non-human, have equal value. Resource consumption above what is needed to supply vital human needs is immoral. Human population must be reduced. Civilizations must radically change present economic, technological, and ideological structures. Reparations, monetary expense, laws, rules, regulations, population reductions are required for the damage that humans have caused. This is the report from Iron Mountain. For those of you that have not watched this on YouTube, I would highly, highly recommend that you do. You can actually go and watch the version of this report that we recommend. It's on StopTheCrime.net under our YouTube video channel. The report from Iron Mountain is essential to understand because it came out in 1966, and it was being worked on while John F. Kennedy was president. And when he was murdered, this report was given to Johnson, and Johnson said, "This is to be hidden from the American people." And the report determines the minimum and optimum levels of destruction of life, of property, and all natural resources, and the possibility and desirability of peace. Now, we need to understand what they mean by peace, and I'll discuss that in a moment. But on page 5 of the report, the actual report itself, it says there will be organized repression of minority groups, the reestablishment of slavery, deliberate intensification of air and water pollution as part of the program leading to peace. Long-range planning and budgeting of optimum number of lives to be destroyed annually in overt warfare is high on the group, the report from Iron Mountain. So let's talk about what the report tells us. The report is a replacement for traditional warfare, where the bombs, missiles, military operations were conducted, because they knew that people would become anxious and disenchanted and would not want to fight in wars anymore. So the elite sought for a replacement of war, and they had to invent it. They decided that they would elicit global warming or the ecology. And back in the early 60s, late 50s actually, they decided that invention would have to and did require mass pollution. That it would take about a generation and a half to pollute everything substantially and enough to convince us it was climate change and too many people using too much stuff. We've been psyopsed, and we were told. This report tells us. So you can either download the report, or you can also watch the YouTube video. The YouTube video does follow some scriptural comparisons, and I think it's an excellent presentation. It talks about what happened with some of the attacks in Waco on the Branch Davidian, and how those were all blood games and how that was all planned. So I can't underscore watching the report from Iron Mountain to understand how all of this was invented. And educate your children. Share this with your children. It also talks about what I'm going to be covering here in a few minutes with executive orders. So now here's another genocide plan, population engineering and the fight against climate change. On page 1, they say the threat posed by climate change justifies population engineering. That's reducing people. Page 2, geoengineering or weather weapons, along with reducing consumption-related waste, renewable energy, reducing human fertility rates, is morally justifiable. 4, relocating climate refugees. I want you to keep that in mind. And we're going to associate that soon with dams, reservoirs, and blast wave accelerators that I mentioned to you as we were going through the NASA war document. On page 5 of the Population Engineering and Fight Against Climate Change, it says global greenhouse gas emissions must decline to near zero. We are all dead. There's no such thing as zero or near zero. Page 15. This is most important, and this is why the United States and Britain and Australia and other economies, industrialized economies, are being so massively attacked. On page 15, Earth cannot sustain larger populations of wealthier individuals. So I think in terms of, are you feeling wealthy? Are you wealthy compared to third world countries? Then there's the Genocide Treaty. And this involves the no-hide laws as well. For those of you that don't know about the no-hide laws, no-hide laws. You need to become familiar with these laws that were adopted by USA Inc. to go after Christians. The Genocide Treaty was signed on under Reagan, and the United States had not signed on to it for many decades, while other countries had. The United States held off, but we are now signed on to the Genocide Treaty. One of the bottom lines of the treaty is that one's own government cannot kill its own people. We don't have a government. We're Earth Inc. Our government isn't killing us because it's not our government. So we're going to talk quickly about some executive orders. These are in play. And I won't read the executive orders to you. You can look at all of this on stopthecrime.net or as part of this YouTube video when we release it. But these have been on record for more than 30 years. How did we all miss this? So here are some of the executive orders. The government can take over all modes of transportation and control all highways and seaports. The government can seize and control communication and all media. They've done that. We're all massively psyopsed. It's all been seized. It's all under control. The government can take over all electrical power. They are. What do you think the smart meter is all about? They can take over gas, petroleum fuels, and all minerals. Executive Order 10998 allows the government to seize all means of transportation, including personal cars, trucks, or vehicles of any kind, and total control over all highways, seaports, and waterways. Executive Order 10999, government can take over all the food resources and all of the farms, and they are doing that now with weather weapons. Look what has happened to the middle of the United States. Look at the farms underwater. Look what is happening. The other executive order talks about they can mobilize civilians into work brigades under government supervision. So you can all be organized into a work brigade. Did you know that? Get your gloves. The government can take over all health, education, and welfare functions. That's done. They can take over airports, aircraft, including commercial aircraft. And the Postmaster General can operate a national registration of all persons. That's already done. The Housing and Finance Authority to relocate communities, build new housing with public funds, designate areas to be abandoned, and establish new locations for populations. This is an executive order forced relocation. Think fires, burning our towns down, and forcing relocation. This is all part of executive orders. Allows the government to take over railroads, inland waterways, public storage facilities, and more. And I could go on. I won't. Everything has been taken. I can tell you that Executive Order 11921 allows the Federal Emergency Preparedness Agency to develop plans to establish control over all the mechanisms of production and distribution of energy sources, wages, salaries, credit, and the flow of money in U.S. financial institutions in any underdefined national emergency. We are in an annual state of national emergency. Don't forget that. Okay, so you all remember January 8th of 2018, the current CEO of USA Inc. signed an executive order streamlining and expediting and to locate broadband facilities in all of rural America, aka 5G. That executive order also removed all the roadblocks that the FCC and the FAA would be blocked against by all communities. Communities have absolutely no jurisdiction over 5G. None whatsoever. Nor do they have jurisdiction over siting of cell phone towers. None whatsoever. Did you know that Trump signed an executive order to boost AI technology back in February 11th of 2019? The executive order direct federal agencies to prioritize and set aside funding for AI programs while opening up a way our researchers and developers to access more government data. We're the government data. We are the data. So we're in a web of slavery, the smart grid, UN Agenda 21, and we're being electrocuted, frequencies of death. We're being electrocuted. That's what's happening. Again, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars has an interesting quote. Until such energy dominance is absolutely established, the consent of the people to labor and let others handle their affairs must be taken into consideration, since failure to do so could cause the people to interfere in the final transfer of energy sources to the control of the elite. Again, military weapons deployed, disguised as civilian communication networks. These are all silent weapons for quiet wars. This is the Department of Army document on stopthecrime.net under our resource document tab. And I'm only going to read a few highlighted areas in this. And we don't need any more doctors or scientists weighing in on the delirious effects of frequencies, on how weaponized this is, because the military documents tell us this is weaponization. They tell us. While we have hundreds of doctors and scientists saying so, this is a document that tells us, dated 1998. Again, the United States Army Intelligence Security Command, this is unclassified military document. And it said, some of the following effects stated in this military document. This list represents some of the many bioeffects of selective, non-lethal weapons. They get by with psyops through language, non-lethal. They tell us electromagnetic fields influence biological systems and cause adverse effects on human health, causing cancer, reproduction, etc. Increase in brain temperature causes disruption of working memory, resulting in disorientation. Listen to this one. Every human is subject to effects of microwave heating, and the predictability is 100%. Slow onset of such frequency heating can be unrecognized by the person being irradiated. We are all being irradiated, and it is legal because we have a corrupt system. They go on. Buzzing, ticking, hissing in the ears, knocking sounds originating within or immediately around our head to distract targeted individuals, which we'll talk more about. Voice-to-skull communication. Devices can send microwave energies great distances. Some loss of consciousness. Intense muscular spasms occur. Frequency variation causes different physical effects. Muscle weaknesses, involuntary muscle contractions, muscle spasms, and more. Pulsed electric fields affect heart beating and breathing. They know this. The elite know this. The controllers know this. This is not a game. They're not studying this. And there's no more need for studies. And our cities are taken over. Our health departments are taken over. The World Health Organization, the CDC, they all work for the cabal, whatever you want to call it, the overlords, whatever you want to call it. This I found interesting, read this some time ago, actually some years ago. Radio waves ideal for remote human cell manipulation. This is out of the New York's Rockefeller University. They go on to talk about that this is breakthrough work of specialists in genetics in New York Rockefeller University. Radio waves are ideal for this sort of remote manipulation because they can pass through layers of tissue and they can be easily focused. Modified versions of temperature-sensitive ion channels to affect only the desired target. We're talking about the ability to modify the behavior of genes without ever going inside the patient's body. It's potentially a colossal advancement. This is being done worldwide. There are millions and millions of people that are being affected. We're going to talk a little bit about domestic terrorism and international terrorism and the targeting of individuals, because this is pathetic. Everyone needs to know about this, and if you don't, you'll hear a little bit about this now. I've got a couple of letters I'm going to read. I'm going to take the time to read this because I believe that the targeted individual community has been at the forefront of technologies that are now being used on all of us, and it will advance. And I have on stopthecrime.net a targeted individual tab. I would recommend that all of you do a little more homework, but I'm going to read you some of what targeted individual victims and those that are being tortured have to say. Domestic terrorism programs. Building of a torture chamber of targets. Electronic warfare technologies, usually transmitters, but some interactive, outside and inside our homes, our workplaces, frequented areas where targeted individuals go, public areas, sleeping areas, cell towers, space weapons, smart dust, nano-based tech, and smart meters, and more are responsible and part of the weapons of terrorism against individuals and us. What do you think 5G is? Biomaterials as receivers, usually, but some interactive with transmitters, brain implants and chips. Many people have been implanted, in fact, most have. Material science technologies, polymers, artificial man-made materials replace natural materials, transhumanism. This is where we are headed. We're like being in a petri dish, being cultured and mutated into something other than being human. That's what it is. The goal, physical, psychological control of a target, oppression and destruction of God's spirit. Spiritual warfare, satanic ritual abuse, which is oftentimes referred to as SRA, satanic ritual abuse. You can look that up. Torture of a target to harvest energy for dark forces related to voodoo practices on specific dates, specific methods, different Hebrew scriptures, by computing numerical value of words, etc. And Aleister Crowley doctrines, Masonic and various occult magic doctrines, all used to determine who, what, where. Children's energy harvested as well. Ley lines are used to determine false flag locations. Moon phases, very important factors as well. The goal, destruction of the God force, the creative energy, and opening up of portals of dark forces. Many of you have heard of CERN, opening up of dark portals, raising up interdimensional entities. Psychological warfare and destruction of human psyche, destruction of morality, ethics, human decency, and consciousness through mind control technologies, social and cultural destruction. AI, artificial intelligence, is the interception and integration, indoctrination, war on the truth through sophisticated disinformation technologies, suppression of free speech, cyber war, and censorship, fraudulent documentation in markets, financial, court systems, governmental entities, and everything else, false documents, false reports. The goal, and this is quoted out of Genesis 6:5, quote, "Every thought was evil all the time." I just received this a couple of days ago from a heavily targeted individual from Ireland, and I'm going to read just a little bit of what she has to say so that you can appreciate what these victims go through on a daily basis. And everyone is attacked in a different way and injured in a different way. The title is "My Slave Handlers Are Cruel to Me." I'm unwillingly wirelessly connected by implanted technology to a computerized wireless control system where I am being subjugated to hearing voice commands which come from unknown individuals who operate the computerized control center. I sometimes post online some of what they say to me and to each other. Yesterday, I heard through the voice induction process one of the individuals tell their colleagues to speak to me so often that I would not be able to function at all because I need to be taught a lesson. I live in the Republic of Ireland, and I know of many other individuals throughout Ireland who are also being unwittingly subjugated to this evil computerized wireless control system. We have attempted to complain about the way we are being treated to the general medical practitioners, psychiatrists, and the police. They automatically assume we are mentally ill, so they will not take the matter seriously, and then we wrongly end up in psychiatric hospitals. They don't seem to realize that the toxic pharmaceutical substances which pose as psych medicines, which we are informed we must take while under psychiatric care, have such extreme side effects that it is akin to being tortured from the inside out. When we report that said pharmaceutical substances are causing us extreme distress to our psychiatrist, the psychiatrist will inevitably refuse to allow us to stop taking the pharmaceutical substance. Instead, they tell us to take an additional substance, which they falsely say will cancel out the extreme distressing side effects of what we are already experiencing. The United States military informed the general public many years ago that they were accumulating medicines which had the most extreme side effects, and they were going to use them as weapons. They have already done this and have made them available for psychiatric use. I have experienced the worst of these extreme, weaponized psychiatric medicines when I was made to feel such extreme side effects to the extent that it was akin to being tortured from within. This person goes on, and I have asked many targets given what our government is doing to you, how can we help you? And I am told repeatedly, please, please just believe this is happening. Research this for yourself and just know this is real. And this is happening to many of us all over the world. And another story of a targeted individual. We're getting into the electro guns and how that kills termites. I found this to be very interesting. There's a company that will use an electro gun as a tool to shoot 90,000 volts of high frequency electricity into the wood of your home. They want you to be certain you use a licensed technician and that they're authorized to use this gun, because they can kill the termites. Think of yourselves as termites in your homes with all the frequencies. But you have to unplug you have to disconnect all of your devices before the treatment to avoid damaging the circuits. We're being killed like termites in our homes. Did you know that the EPA said a little bit of radiation damage is actually good for us? The EPA said the Environmental Protection Agency would save billions and billions of dollars. And they said that increased exposure to small amounts of radiation would have a positive effect on human health, as well as save billions and billions of dollars. Radiation can act as a stressor, which will activate the body's immune mechanism. Goal: to relax standards on radiation levels that the administration considers burdensome. We've known about dirty electricity and how electricity does not need wires to travel through the air into your home. It can literally come out of the walls. And if you're sleeping on a wire box spring mattress, or you have underwire bras, or you have belt buckles that are metal or change in your pocket, you can easily be irradiated. Even eyewear that have metal frames. So there's much to understand about how to reduce the frequencies. Again, targeting of individuals. Certainly China is under massive, massive assault. Social engineering to the max. And that's what's happening here in a different way. Many people think, oh, I'm so glad I don't live in China. You live in China. USA Inc., Earth Inc. We know that the FCC chairman said on 5G, we won't study it, we won't regulate it, we do have standards for it, but he ignores all the health questions. So the next question is, what on earth is this guy talking about? This is Tom Wheeler from the FCC. Tom Wheeler is not the FCC, is the face, the Luciferian face of the FCC, which is run by Serco, Crown Castle, and Google, not the FCC. So we know many consequences, illnesses from 5G. The same list applies to smart meters and all of the wireless cell phones as well. You can go to stopthecrime.net and download the symptoms list. I would highly recommend that you do. Everybody without exception is suffering from frequencies. Everybody. So we're going to talk quickly about smart cities and smart cities and the technologies for our future death camps. For many of you, you know that I have still a YouTube up called Kill Cities by Rothschild and Rockefeller. YouTube took that down, but because it was fully documented, they were forced to put it back up. But they took off the count of the people that had watched it, and they took off all the comments. We had hundreds of thousands of views, and they eliminated all of that. So it's Kill Cities by Rothschild and Rockefeller. I would certainly recommend you view it. But smart technologies for future death camps. And these are some of the main technologies defining the United Nations Sustainable Cities, and there are 5 acronyms. We're talking about 5G. It's the 5th generation wireless, and it is the foundational technology of dense wireless networks that all the other tech is built up on. It's not a matter of stopping 5G. 5G is the foundational weaponized military warfare technology, not from only space, but land and ground-based as well. And it is the foundational technology that all other tech is built upon, including computer vision cameras. Videos as sensors are the eyes of the city. We have lots of eyes in our cities. Have you driven around and looked at all the cameras? They're everywhere. Well, there's mixed reality, augmented reality and plain old reality mixed together to bring digital overlays. People are so dismayed and so fractured that they're living behind their screens in a reality that doesn't exist. Mixed reality. Autonomous vehicles. LiDAR is used in autonomous vehicles. Just like LiDAR is being used on the top of our hills here in Sonoma County and in San Diego and in Lake Tahoe area. Well, it's a military weapon to view in real time all the time the levels of mass destruction that they create. How effective were the fires in that area? What does it look like? They're telling us that the reason they're using this military frequency, because we're a battlefield. I mean, they're not telling us that, but we're a battlefield and we're the enemy, is so that they can dispatch critical care to areas. They can see in real time the events of earthquakes, fires, floods, tornadoes, and more. LiDAR being positioned. Absolutely. Then we have for artificial intelligence, that's the brains of the city. And they talk about how the real power of these technologies will be unlocked when combined. The 5G connected to the AVs, utilizing data sourced from the city via CV sensors to anticipate obstacles in real time all the time, using AI to process the data and coordinate with other AVs, that's autonomous vehicles, for optimal street level effectiveness, all while passengers look out a virtual mixed reality window onto their individualized city. So we're going to talk about secret features of the RFID chip and how the RFID chip interacts in the New World Order, in one world government, which we're in. It is the foundation also, and it's needed to handle all the data at high speed. And it's a combination with powerful space probe networks, which will handle all the data in high speed all the time. 5G and the space probes will become a breakthrough in mass surveillance of people and a breakthrough in mass mind control and mass manipulation of people. The RFID chip will become a standard in the New World Order era. Those who reject the RFID chip will not be able to buy or sell without the chip. The RFID chip will not be hated. People around the world will be desperate to have a chip. For the convenience of not having to have keys to unlock your car, your apartment, you can have a chip. Employers and businesses will require the chip. The chip, of course, uses electromagnetic fields. It's implanted and injected under the skin in your hand, and your new life will begin. You will need this chip in order to survive. You can connect to the RFID chip with various electronic devices. You can access your bank account, your virtual database, your virtual wallet, your personal identification, your health, unlock doors. We'll have all your doctor and hospital information, track your location in real time all the time with GPS built into it. Certainly it will know our health and mood status at all times. And it will also know when you have to go to the bathroom. It will make you deaf, and it will make you blind, it will make you dumb. It will record everything you see and everything you hear and everything you speak. It will manipulate memories, which we know targeted individuals have claimed throughout the eons of manipulated memories and false memories and manipulating dreams. This is all part of what is happening and has been happening, and creating fake memories. And these chips will make you feel pain in selected parts of your body. Well, you don't necessarily need these chips because targets are already feeling pain in various parts of their body. But it will manipulate behaviors, feelings, and our decisions. And it can kill us. But the best part, we're told, is the majority of people will be desperate to have one. So now we're looking at the Electromagnetic Defense Task Force. We're going to stop for a moment before we move in to the black starts and the power outages that our government tells us we're going to have and they're going to do to us. So this is the final part of part 3.